Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. I'm Dr. Mari Centeno. I am Professor of Political Science and the advisor to the Model United Nations team. I'm very proud of the team, some of you know this because I'll talk about it. And so I'm really proud of Mariah and Hubert for this project that they're presenting that the students undertook last year. It was Mariah's brainchild and it just evolved. And I want to note too that they did this above and beyond regular Model UN duties. They got no class credit for it. They did it because they wanted to. And I think it was a real evolutionary step for Model UN as a team. And we're hoping to replicate it, this project they're about to present every year. So I am proud to introduce to you Mariah McDermott and Hubert Price.
Hello everybody, as mentioned before, my name is Hubert Price. I am currently studying political science and history here at Adams State. I am also the ASNF representative for the Model United Nations Club here on campus.
Yeah, I'm Mariah. I am also studying political science and history. I'm slowly working on my Spanish minor, and I'm the current president of Model UN. So we wanted to present this conference because of all the dedication and effort we put into it. While we may not have scholarly sources, we created our own sources and put in our own research to make this happen. It took a lot of time and a lot of people to make this work, and we really feel like it should be recognized here at Student Scholar Days. So this is our club logo. In the background, it's the real logo of the United Nations, and up front we have the grizzly paw. And I'm just going to hand out some of the extra pamphlets we had from this conference just so you guys can see them.
So what is Model UN? Model UN is a form of debate that simulates the real United Nations. Participants act as real delegates from real countries trying to solve real life issues around the world. Our club here on campus, we are heavily active in community service. We participate in ASU Cares Day. We are heavily active in Homecoming Week, as many of you know. We travel internationally every year to compete against prestigious schools at prestigious conferences in which we always do really well at. Based on that, we wanted to bring back what we have learned and the experiences that we have had internationally back to this community and to Adams State. We wished to get the high school students around the region, around the area, as well as the middle school students involved in this. So what is SOCOMUN, what we are here for? SOCOMUN is the Southern Colorado Model United Nations Conference that Adams State put on here this past October. As I mentioned before, we applied what we have learned internationally into this conference. We wanted to give these students a real life taste of what it was like to take part in the Model United Nations scene. This event was completely created, executed, pulled off by the students of Adams State and the Model United Nations Club. As I mentioned before, this conference did premiere this past fall, this past October, through the 19th and 20th. So based on that, our purpose for this conference was to host an event that, for students around the region, that it introduces them to our club and our campus while practicing Model United Nations techniques. This was to develop their skills in researching, negotiating, public speaking skills. And this just gives them the introduction into real world issues. We believe that the first step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.
Right, so how did this start? So last year, our student government, ASNF, offered an extra quarterly, which was an extra opportunity for clubs to get funding for travel and events. So we took it to our club, brainstormed some ideas, and we kind of threw out this idea for a high school conference. So some of our club was definitely on board, ready to do this, but others definitely recognized the amount of work it was going to take and what was going to have to go into it. But we took it to ASNF, and the Senate loved the idea. I think it was approved without any no's or abstentions, and they were really looking forward to how we were going to put this on. So with that being said, kind of the first step we had to handle was managing our budget, and we kind of used Google Drive quite a bit to handle these things. All of this was student run and led. We kept track of all the invoices, all of the purchase requests, everything we needed, and it was really just a cool opportunity to learn more about how to do that. So along with this, we had to get going before we left for summer because this all happened probably right around this time last year. So kind of a quick turnaround to get things going, but we elected and decided on some positions. I think it says it in the pamphlet, but I was the Secretary General. Shauna Reese was the USG, which means Undersecretary General of Logistics, sorry. Destiny Comstock, I don't know where she is, she's here, was Finance, and Dr. Centeno was our advisor. Then Trina D. Herrera and Hubert Price killed it at the communications piece. So it was really just an awesome event because of all the people involved. So along with that, we had to decide on what committees we wanted to have at this conference. We decided on 4. We had the Security Council, which is the most powerful body in the UN. We had General Assembly, Economic and Social Council, and Human Rights Council. Yeah, so we decided on those 4. We set a timeline for the events that needed to get done before we got back to school, and we left for summer. We didn't do anything till July. We didn't move an inch. The haters were right. It was like not moving, but in July, kind of emailed everyone, reminded what we were still going to do. We got to work immediately on the topics and created a new timeline for the study guides and whatnot. But yeah, so when this happened and I kind of started reminding people, we had 2 chairs drop out. Our chairs were either students or alum of Adams State, and so we decided we kind of problem solved really quickly and decided to condense the conference. So we decided on having 2 committees. We went with ECOSOC and General Assembly. For General Assembly, we chose the topic of genocide. We felt like this was a really good topic for the high school students because it was kind of general, really broad, a lot of historical context to find for students to talk about this. And then for ECOSOC, this was a little bit tougher of a topic, but I feel like it fit the committee really well. It was promoting women's access to technology in developing nations. So we were a little nervous what the students would be able to find with the different countries they were representing, but we couldn't have been more proud of them for how well they did. So throughout the summer, we continued to work on the study guides, which took a lot of time and effort. We had to worry about all the content and structure that had to be applied to these, and we definitely base it off of study guides that we get when we go to international conferences. So here's the General Assembly study guide. The table of contents, it just kind of like introduces the students to the committee, to the topic, and just pretty general. Shauna Reese was the chair of this committee. He did a phenomenal job. Couldn't be more proud of him. But yeah, so part of this is also trying to be unbiased and making sure there's enough for every country to go off of without favoring one position or the other. So I feel like we did a really good job at all of that. But yeah, it was a really good opportunity. So when we returned in the fall, this past August, things are still kind of moving a bit slow. We still weren't done with the study guides. It was kind of frustrating because we were still having trouble getting interest from schools, but we continued to send out flyers. We sent out hundreds of flyers to almost 100 different schools across the state. We were emailing teachers, emailing principals. When we have databases of all the schools we contacted, I even kept track of how many flyers we sent to each school. We were very detailed about everything we did, but it was really cool. So after homecoming, it was a really quick turnaround for the event, but I think those were the crucial few weeks that made this event happen because we really kept our noses to the ground, and we had 3 different registration deadlines, but so there was early, normal, and late, and nobody registered for early. Nobody registered for normal, even though it was cheaper. They all registered late, and we ended up having 5 schools register. We had Alamosa High School, Pagosa Springs High School, Monta Vista High School, Dolores High School, and Del Norte Middle School.
So for the conference itself, we ended up hosting just a little over 40 students, none of which had participated in MUN activities before, so it was an excellent challenge for us and them. As mentioned before, we sent out study guides based on their topic as well as the rules of procedure. And so the rules of procedure is just basically the rules on how the committee will play out, of how debate plays out and voting procedures and stuff like that. Before they actually showed up, we spoke with the coaches and their advisors and reassured them that Adams State is a welcoming place. It's a safe environment. They really have nothing to worry about. So we got them the finalized schedule of events, and as mentioned before the conference, we worked to create designs such as you know, this right here is beautiful. You'll see pictures of this a little bit later. We created t-shirts even that have the Colorado symbol on it, just to represent Colorado a little bit more. We even offered the option for students to stay here at Adams State if that was a necessity for them. We even had one school take advantage of that, and they stayed across the way here at Connor Hall. One of the main things we really needed to do, just to make sure this was even possible, we had to reserve spaces in classrooms. I mean, there was just no way for this to happen if there wasn't a way for them to sit down, converse, and actually have the debate take place. We bought food locally here in the community. For example, we had Calvillo's help us with dinner one night, on that first night. We even had the San Luis Valley Pizza Company help serve that on lunch that second day, which is always pretty cool. We even ended up having Starbucks donate 50 gallons worth of coffee for the conference to help keep the students and advisors going. It was much needed, believe me. So planning out furthermore, we had the itinerary sent out to everybody, and we'll go ahead and go over this real fast for you.
Right, so like we said, this conference was just a shortened version of what itineraries look like at other schools that we go to. We started off with registration, and here's a picture of a school at registration. That was Pagosa Springs High School. They just kind of registered, got all their folders that we had put together for them. They kind of worked on their position papers, making sure they were ready for the committees. Yeah, and then right after that, they went on a campus tour with Mariah and the student ambassadors. It was a really beautiful day. We were kind of nervous about the weather, mid-October, you never know. But it went really well, and we were pleased with that. And then I think one of the best parts of the conference was the opening ceremony. It actually happened in this room. We had all the students sitting here, and it was a really cool part of the conference. We opened the conference and kind of gave them a taste of what the rules and expectations would be for their committees. Along with that, what was probably the best part of the conference, President Lovell actually came and addressed the students. And fun fact, she used to do Model UN, so it was really cool that she came and kind of talked about her experiences. But yeah, so then we went right into the first session, and we were worried. Like, nobody was really talking, the kids were really nervous. They couldn't really figure out how to get on their feet, but as the debate went on, like, you could kind of see like the stronger power delegates playing out, and it was just really cool. And then we went on a break. During this time, we used a lot of icebreakers and different activities to keep the kids engaged. They had lots of energy. They do it. And then another really cool part was the dinner social on Friday night. So we had it in McDaniel, and Dr. Centeno addressed the students, and we kind of did this really cool activity where everybody wrote what they believed was the biggest global issue facing our world on a sticky note, and they all placed it on a giant globe. And we kind of discussed the different issues and stuff. It was really like special to see. It was kind of interactive too. And then we went over to the Casa House, and Onita and the Casa team helped us make smachos, and the kids loved it. It was really cool, and they loved seeing the Casa House. It's a really cool resource on campus that we got to show off.
So moving on to the second day on Saturday. Between 8 and 9, we had breakfast for them, of course, and we had an icebreaker. This was arguably the most interactive part. So, for example, these are not dead students. This is part of the icebreaker that we did. So we put skits inside of a hat, and they formed their own groups, and they pulled a skit out of the hat. And whatever skit they drew, they had to perform it here on stage. And they only had 2 minutes to prepare. So they really had to practice their impromptu skills. Yeah. And from 9 to 11:45, we had session 2. And let me tell you, session 2 was so much better than session 1. People were beginning to not even walk. They were beginning to run in terms of the committee. And I'm going to point this out. We did not lock them in the room for 3 hours. There were coffee breaks and snack breaks and stuff like that, so they could stay going. Between 12 and 1 p.m., they had their lunch, which was provided by the SOV Pizza Company. 1:15 to 4 p.m., we had session number 3. And session number 3 was really important to the conference because it allowed them to put all of their thoughts and ideas, making groups and stuff like that together, developing working papers, creating resolutions for it to be passed and whatnot. It was just an excellent scene. And then from 4 to 4:30 p.m., we had the ice cream social, which it was basically just the end, just to let everybody cool down and everything. And this was also the time that we gave them their feedback forms.
Oops. Yeah. So we just gave them a little survey. Keep in mind they had ice cream when they were filling this out, so don't know if that skewed the answers. But when we asked them how satisfied they were with the overall event, the average was 4.38 on a scale of 1 to 5. So, and I think the lowest was a 3, and we only had like 1 or 2 of those. So it was really good to see that they loved this event, and it was obvious they wanted to come back the next year. But when we asked them how satisfied they were with the committee, that just kind of asking them like, how was their debate, how was their chair, things like that. They were just as thrilled on that piece too. And when asked about the topic, they said 4.28 was the average. So we were a little bit nervous about that one just because of the difficulty of the topic in the Economic and Social Council. But they definitely took it and ran with it, and it was really cool to see.
So we also asked them if they feel like they will return again next year. Unfortunately, we had one student say no, but that was only because they were seniors, they were a senior, and they just couldn't participate next year. So that was okay, but we'll take that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
That was really cool.
Okay. So what did Adams State gain from this conference? We had students apply. We had multiple students apply. We offered free applications for them to apply. It was just a great opportunity for them. Based on that, we also have 2 students for sure coming next year because of this conference and what Model UN does. We have even influenced the development of teams at Alamosa High School as well as Pagosa Springs High School, and they are already competing on a state level, which is just excellent to see. They even come to us for help. You know, we discuss with them like what to expect, what not to expect, on how to approach things. So we also, just based on the conference itself, we brought over 40 students here to Adams State. We showcased what Adams State was about, what it had to offer, you know, socially, environmentally. I mean, just bringing them into the San Luis Valley and just exploring it more. It is pretty cool.
Yeah. So something we found out not too long ago, probably a few weeks ago, this was emailed to our advisor, Dr. Centeno, and it just pretty much is an archive news article about how there was a conference held here in 1940, I think the first one was in 1948, and it invited students and adults from around the valley to come and compete in a UNESCO conference. We had no idea about this. We thought we were the first ones. We thought we were all cool. No. Because the next year they held a high school conference, and their first year they had 125 high school students show up. And it talks about in this bottom paragraph how in every year following that, they had more and more students show up, because this was written in 1955. So just kind of cool to look back. I'd like to say we were the first ones, but like we kind of are. So I'll count it, but yeah. So with SOCOMUN 2019 coming up, there's a lot that we want to do. So a fellow member and myself are heading up to Denver next weekend to talk to the Colorado MUN people, and this is pretty much an organization which organizes and recognizes different conferences for high school students around the state. And we're just going to present our conference to them and hope they accept us on their circuit. So different high schools from around the state, bigger schools like Fairview and Cherry Creek could get interested and come down to the valley. And this would not only benefit our club, because right now we're looking to have about 100 students. If we were recognized, that number could go way up, and that would be phenomenal, because that would be more students here on campus, more students looking at the HAPPSS department, and more students looking at Model UN. And we couldn't ask for much more. So wish us luck on that. But yeah, so here's some pictures from the event. You want to discuss?
Yeah. So for this picture here, this is during, I believe, the first session, which you can start to get the picture of what this actually looked like. People are beginning to actually debate and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. During this picture right here, this was during the award ceremony, and everybody with their certificates of participation, and then also with the delegate awards that we handed out.
Right, so when we go to conferences, typically we get a gavel as a prize, and it kind of has something like inscribed on there. We put SOCOMUN 2018 on these ones for them, and it was really cool. They got to like have their own gavel, and we actually used these in the committee they were in, so it was like really cool to see them. They're like, wow. But yeah, that was special. Down here is another picture of, this is the ECOSOC committee. They were mad at, this is Turkey, they were really mad at Turkey because they were discussing women's rights. I'm just going to stop there. But yeah, and then up here we have our chair, Mr. Sean Arisi. He's sitting right there, actually, but he took this on and he changed topics at last minute and did a phenomenal job. The kids really loved him. We couldn't have asked for much more with this entire event. So, and we're really looking forward to next year's event also. So, and anybody is welcome to stop by next year and help. Yeah. So, any questions? Dr. Centeno.
What skills did you learn as individuals from this project?
So, I think I grew up because of this, honestly. This is probably the coolest thing I've ever done. Honestly, it was an incredible experience, and I don't really like kids that much, but to see, I know, I put on a conference for kids, but to see how the kids like progressed through the weekend, like, it just really touched my heart because of all the work that went into it with the budgeting and, you know, creating flyers and banners and emailing schools trying to gain interest. And I think it's still happening, like all the skills now, because we're trying to, you know, create more interest and find other avenues for new things as well, like with going up to Denver. So, yeah, what about you?
I 100% agree with that. I mean, for me personally, it's probably developing communication skills. And what I mean by that, you know, it was tough, you know, trying to explain things to some, especially the middle schoolers that attended, just to get points across. So it really just, it essentially brought me back down to earth. It's like not expect much from the students themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's all we get. If you have more questions, we can answer it after. And if you want to help, you can let us know. But yeah, thank you guys.